Hey everyone, welcome back to this week's episode of Sounds of the Diaspora, Artist to Artist, a conversation with Dion Parson. We would like to thank you for taking the time to join us today. We have a special show today. We're very excited. I'd like to thank our listening audience around the world, here in the US and internationally, for joining us, and we thank you for your support. I'm very excited today because I'm looking forward to the information I'll be shared. Our episode today is entitled The History of the Steelpan Volume 1, and is going to be featuring two of the world's leading premier steelpan players, Mr. Victor Provost and Mr. Leon Foster Thomas. Please welcome them to the show. Gentlemen, how are we doing today? Mr. Provost, Mr. Thomas.
Good.
Excellent, man. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yes. Thank you for agreeing to do this show. I know we've been talking about it for a while, trying to put it together, and you guys have been very supportive in doing your research and getting stuff in order. So tell us where you're located. Foster, I see you in England.
Yeah, currently in London, doing my studies over here. So, yeah, taking in the cold.
Taking in the cold, okay. And where are you from originally?
Originally Trinidad. I was born in San Fernando, Trinidad. So big up South Trinidad.
So, all right. So you bust off to go get some education. I love it. My main man, Victor Provost, welcome. How you doing?
Hey. What's up, Dion?
I'm great, man. I'm great. Yeah. I'm excited for this to just have this conversation with you guys. I'm not going to do too much talking, but the steelpan is one of those instruments. Is new to the scene. You know, it's one of those newest instruments in the scene, and it's always been considered like a festive instrument for carnival and party time and stuff like that. But it's slowly making its way into an intellectual platform. It's in universities, people actually studying and getting majors with it. I know, Victor, you are a professor at George Mason teaching steelpan. So, I would like for us to just give an overview of the origins of steelpan and how did it get to where, how did it get to where it is, So, can you just tell us how the steelpan was invented?
Get through that curveball early. You know what, man? And that's one of the biggest or maybe greatest question regarding the instrument, because a lot of people are trying to pinpoint an exact one person responsible for this instrument. However, that's just not the case. But the instrument came about in around the 1930s. And actually from African drums to tambour bamboo and to what we have now, well, actually from the ping pong era now, and then to what we have now as the 55-gallon oil drums, where we have these beautiful instruments now. And a lot of things are attributed within the northern part of Trinidad and so on.
Yeah, you have to specify, man. It's like you said,
yes,
1935, but it's like in Trinidad, right?
Yes, especially in Trinidad, and a lot of people, attribute a lot of stuff within the western part of Trinidad, like St. James and Carenage and Laventille. And Laventille is extremely important with even regards to the point of John, because there's which is a little area low in southeast part of Spain, where you had people like, Spree Simon and all these cats that came in there, and Spree Simon, one of the main early soloists of the instrument back in the day. And the instrument went through a certain period with regards from, like I said, those themes to what it is now.
Yeah, the way that I try to I mean, so we should probably like caveat this whole conversation just by acknowledging that this is still a living history.
Mm-hmm.
That like a lot of the references that we're going to make at people that we talk about are either not long gone, and some of them are still with us, right? So like, I mean, Leon and I are very young, and we should have some. So we tried to get some folks on here that were very very close to the origins of the movement, that speak from like first person perspectives. But the way that I tried to describe it is as a continuum, right, Leon? Like a continuum of African drumming traditions that started with skin drums. And of course, these are traditions that were brought to Trinidad with enslaved Africans during the slave trade, right? And those skin drums were all of these traditions were at different periods of time were restricted by the various colonial governments, whether it be the French, the Spanish, the British. Ultimately, it was the British that were restricting these African practices. And so once you couldn't play skin drums, and again, it was like the next move was to bamboo, right? And then once bamboo is restricted, then it's a move to kind of found objects, right? Like dustbin covers and paint lids and little.
You mind if I interject there? I kind of lost you guys a little bit. And funny enough, the drums was outlawed by there's what you call the Code Noir,
right?
Where with regards to practices from the slaves. The English had its own type of Code Noir, which was like the first thing, and I can't remember the name exactly, but this was happening in Barbados in 1661. The Code Noir was a thing to have a system actually designed for African slaves back in the day to, as they say, boost productivity so they'd have them congregate on a Sunday. So this this ties into everything with regards to even the history of jazz at that point as time too. So these Sundays were that time where all these slaves and them would come together and so on. This with regards to Barbados and so on, that was problematic because they believed that the slaves would revolt. So we're going a little bit step back to Trinidad, the conversation with Trinidad. In 1883, the Catholic Church made a movement to outlaw the skin drums. So both African and East Indian drummers were banned because anything with skin, they got rid of it.
Right.
And so then these guys resort to taboo bamboo, as Victor alluded to there.
Yeah.
And it's very fascinating because they had various sizes of bamboos and so on going on like that. How the pan came into, how it made its trajectory into that, they started using what you call the biscuit tins. So the bass drum of the bass bamboo of the Tambo Bamboo group continued splitting because of the constant knocking on the floor and on the road and stuff like that. And they also was kind of concerned that it was damaging the roads. But also the instrument players would also knock it on their feet. So they would be getting bruised and stuff like that. So there's what you call the Bermuda's biscuit pan. Was the first bass.
Yeah. Right. And that was like a one note. It was like a one note shell.
And I don't even think it was like necessarily note. They just used it as a drum.
It was just a sound. Yeah. It was a sound. Yeah.
Exactly. And so the guy, Andrew Beddoe, who was a big time drummer in Trinidad, came out of Sea-Lots. They revered him as one of the best, what they call him, bass bass biscuit pan beaters. I would have to get the proper name, but yeah. But you know, so it really started taking off. So we could see that transition, how the pan came into play, or how a pan came into play from that, because
within the tambour band.
Within the tambour bamboo. So you could see that trajectory. And one more quick thing I would just point on is that the bamboos at one point in time got outlawed as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Because this was rivalry. So they would point the end of the bamboo. So when these bands clash, so we talk about steel band clash, but when the bamboos clash, they would use it as a weapon.
It became a weapon.
So that became outlawed, but the fellas on there didn't really stick to that too much to say, well, we ain't going to stop doing that. That kept going, you know. I mean, that vibe kept going.
You find a way. You find a way.
Yeah, you had to find a way, you know what I mean? And I don't think really many of the officials and stuff like that paid that too much mind in terms of not happening, because the soul, you can't take the soul out of the people like that easily, you know what I mean? So that, you know.
And the officials probably watching this like, okay, well, it's just them mashing up each other.
Right.
You know, but that's an excellent point. I mean, sorry, go ahead, Dion.
No, I'm saying I'm agreeing with you. The good thing with the tambour bamboo is that it wasn't just in Trinidad. It actually moved from island to island as well. Because I've seen versions of it in Cuba.
Yeah,
you know, and Etienne Charles was on here. He was one of our guests a while back, and he recorded a song, Tambour Bamboo, on one of his trips back home to Trinidad with some musicians. He had a whole horn section playing with the bamboo band, which was interesting to see. So it's a tradition that's still going, but it actually evolved outside of Trinidad also. So it's really good to see, like you said, you know, musicians will find a way to present what they have.
I just sorry.
No, that's
just to piggyback on something what you said with regards to the horns, because the horn players and things in those days didn't really consider these fellas musicians. But then at some point in time, they had no other choice. So then the connection with brass instruments with tambour bamboo became a thing, so to speak. Sorry, Victor, I cut you.
No, that was just gonna say, because you could walk with both of them.
Exactly.
I know our audience is really interested. They're probably going, man, what is that?
What are you talking about? Yeah. You have the video, right?
so let's kind of like clue them into what we're talking about. So we actually have a recording of a tambour bamboo group. So let's play it for a minute and share with the audience so they could be part of the conversation. Hey man, that's a hard groove. I could vibe on that for a while, man.
It's like, the sweetest thing, man. It's the sweetest thing, man.
Tell me about it. It's like, and you see the one bass pan, you got two notes on there.
Yeah.
Resonates to everything. You know, that's great, man. That's great. It's So I hope the audience caught that, because now they could be like, okay, we know what the tambu bambu.
Yeah, for sure. And Leon, you ever think? I'm sure you think about this, man, because you play a lot of hand drums too, right? I mean, what was your first instrument? Foster?
Yeah,
Did you start playing djembe?
Djembe, yeah.
Djembe, right? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And did you come up like around like the spiritual Baptist, like Shouter Baptist scene, or?
I grew up in the church. I grew up heavily.
Yeah. So that, I mean, so all of those, the way that I hear like tambu bambu is just a movement of all those same like interlocking rhythms. You know what I'm saying? From the high parts, the low parts, and the bass parts, and the djembe, and just move them to the bamboo one time.
Literally. And from the bass bamboo to the just kind of like how they structured it. They had I have my notes and all that. You all have me taking notes. So the longest one is the bass bamboo, and then you have the chandlers, which is the second one. Then you have the cutters, and then the fule. So all respective of when you because religion and everything is connected. African religion and everything is like that is connected. Shango, Orisha, and all that stuff going into that. Deities and so on. So again, you're summoning ancestors and the saints and so on to get these things happening. So we all call it a vibe. But we're invoking a manifestation of whatever that is. But this the sweetness that you can't even teach that.
It's a conjuring. It's a conjuring.
You have to live it and be part of it and experience it that way. Yeah,
exactly. Absolutely.
So when we dial up the next video, right? And we check out the next little piece of music, like just for the audience to kind of put their ears on the fact that like those same rhythms now that you just heard on the bamboo are now going to transfer over to metal. You know what I'm saying? Like the dustbins and the biscuit tins and stuff, right? But this is before, break drum, any kind of piece of iron metal you could find.
I even want to chime in on something with regards to like because iron. I saw a discussion recently where people was like questioning
big controversy. Big controversy.
I stay out to that, but to a lot, especially with regards to like religious stuff, and people talk about Shango and stuff like that. Iron Shango, but also
could you just like don't glaze over that? Could you speak a little bit more on like on the orisas and like so just like Shango is the deity, the god of iron, right?
Because they were determined the Orishas as the religion of the Africans that came over, and some say that it's called they would term it Shango even in Trinidad and Cuba. It would be called Voodoo in Haiti, Santeria, and so on, Candomblé and so on. Pretty much almost the same kind of vibe. And with regards, and then so you had like deities or such as Shango, you had Oshun, you had Ogun, and for different various saints for different various reasons and so on. But they say Shango is the iron, steelpan, or everything iron, Shango, god of thunder kind of thing. And so these things are so. People look at it maybe very by the way, and I see that time and time again, but the pan and everything around it means so much towards us and connected, especially within the Black Atlantic, so to speak.
The Afro diaspora of the Caribbean.
The diaspora within that Black Atlantic. And so I think once there's a greater understanding, which is really great why we're doing this, I think you would see a better view on how, or people would have a better view on how this thing really works and respected at the same time. I wanted to say something with regards to the iron, because one of the first instances of the iron is the bottle and spoon. A lot of people take that jokingly, but like the early time, the rhythm of the iron was really came from like this bottle and spoon. Gang, 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 gang. And they used to use all gin bottles back in the day because that was the thicker bottles and stuff like that. So the rhythm, so that along with the tambo bamboo, picking up that rhythm from there, and even connecting with the fule. In Best Village music or folk music in Trinidad, we would call that the fuller. So because it's a smaller drum and you're so it's just rhythm,
the gaps,
filling up the air, filling in the gap. And pulse.
Syncopation that carries
exactly. Yeah, that syncopation is extremely important. So I would say one more thing, but so the pulse, because it's taken me there. A lot of folks, when they try to play calypso music or even Caribbean music, they try to focus where one is.
Right.
And in actuality, the one is there, but the pulse is not actually the one.
Right.
We answer the one.
Right.
Yeah.
Ease and outs.
So that's where your pulse is.
Right. Even if you're playing 16 notes, you never
exactly
the downbeat. It's like the one E and the E.
Yeah.
Is the E. The E is like or the E and the
R.
The
E's and the R's. That's what
it's exactly.
The rhythm, yeah.
Hey, D, this is a digression, but I that's the same way I think about swing phrasing, man. You know what I'm saying? You like phrasing 8 notes in a swing line. It's all the same, the same vibe.
And that's one of the things when I practice my swing, I actually practice the calypso.
Yeah.
Because all of the
swings, man.
That's the swing. The swing is not the downbeat. The swing is on, it's on the upbeat. That's the pattern that carries it. But man, hey, this is so great, gentlemen.
It's going to take us somewhere.
But we got to stay to the script. We got to stay to the script. So we're talking about all of these syncopated rhythms, and we talk about the tambo bamboo and the iron. And what I love about the iron, that being a prominent instrument, not only in calypso and Afro-Caribbean music, but as the lead instrument in a lot of the African diasporic rhythms. So all of those drum ensembles, they have an iron player that actually dictates the transition from one place to the next. So that's what I love about it. And then within the Trinidadian culture, with the steel pan, it's made of iron. So that vibe was transcended into the pan. And we have the earliest recording of steel pan here. I would like to pull this in for our audience because we can go on and keep talking, but we always have to remember our audience, gentlemen. So we have a recording here of one of the first recordings of steel pan here. So
this is I think it's Helyard steel band, with Roaring Lion, the Calypsonian Roaring Lion. And this is how you would, you could imagine this sound like on the road, right? Okay, so you have a chantwell, a lead singer, and he have his band with him, and they're going down the road, and he's singing, right? Singing, most like bragging, singing about himself, right? And then the next band is coming this way, and the two bands meet, right? So then it's the chantwell job to start singing about the other band, right? Start singing about your shoes and your mother and all of this stuff. And then next thing you know, that's when the clash happens.
So let's play this recording for our audience so they could hear what we're talking about.
Lion, lion, oh, let go me lion, lion, oh. When went to Napuna, Lion, I went Sandy Grande, Lion, I went Freeport Junction, Lion, I went up at Cora, Lion, I went San Fernando, Lion, went Pinal Junction, Lion, went Siparia, Lion, the stick bend they by me, Lion, I meet Willie Dolly, Lion, I meet Lio Bundo, Lion, I meet Dolphus Coca, Lion. Well, Pilgrim, Lion, men to kill me, Lion, and they want to kill me, Lion, bunks up cut out, Lion, met up Joe Pringle, Lion, I meet up Elias, Lion, called the Hindu dancer, Lion, I drank Richmond's East, Lion, it got like Joe Louis, Lion, I came terrible, Lion, and start making trouble, Lion, yeah, Lion, Lion, yeah, Lion, Lion, bunks up Joe Louis, Lion, I drank Fishman, Lion, I became terrific, Lion, I start making trouble, Lion.
Vibing, man.
Yeah, that's nice. Yeah. That's really nice. That's really nice.
I want to touch on something with regards to that really as well too, because Helyard was also one of the earlier Tambu Bamboo bands as well. So you can see that transition, the way they went all pans there and rhythmically, and you could hear that, within that rhythm, that calypso rhythm. So it's almost the same thing even like in the Baptist church. When they're doing adoption, because so that's the connection to Mother Earth in that sense. So the music is so indicative of that, you know what I mean? Yeah. But also what's also interesting, which is throughout the entire African diaspora, is the idea of call and response, the responsorial music.
Mm-hmm.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And to a lot of people that maybe was like the first set of, when Victor was talking about when the bands meet up and they clash, that was like your first set of hip hop, because the guys were like sampling.
Yeah.
That's freestyle,
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of connection to modern day music that you hear the foundations there, but it's so organic and so raw, but man, it swings, man. It's swinging everything.
Yeah.
Swing so hard, man. It's just and it's very simple too. It's like just, but there's layers, the way they lay. It's really amazing. And what I like is the transition of the iron really into the steel pan and how the steel pan ensembles came about. Mm-hmm. And a lot of it at that time was just passed down orally. None of it was really written down. So it's a steep tradition, and you had to be present in order to learn it. Yeah. That's the thing. It's like one of the things that the internet took away from us was that organic presence of being, in the moment. In order for me to get information from you, Victor, or you, Foster, I had to meet up with you guys and spend that time.
Right.
Now it's a little different. Hey, let me zoom and get this, and then I'll go figure it out on my phone. So you could hear the organic essence within those songs and those rhythms, and and it's nothing like that, man. It's really nice, man. But man, this is great, man. I hope our audience is really paying attention to this, because as we progress through the evolution of the steel pan, this section here is very, very important. A lot of people miss this. They don't see the significance of the Tambu Bamboo creating the foundations of steel pan.
So exactly.
as we transition through this process, now we have more pans. We have bass pans, we have lead pans, tenor pans, we have double tenors, we have seconds, and we have what we call a panyard. The panyard is now created. We have so many pan players congregating together that we have an ensemble. And I remember as a kid, one of the first pan songs I heard on the radio was the 1812 Overture.
Yeah.
It blew my mind, man, to hear a steel pan orchestra. It was a group out of Trinidad. I can't remember the name. I was a little kid.
Panam North Stars, I believe it is.
Probably them. And they were playing it, and I was glued to the radio, man. I couldn't believe my ears hearing this steel pan orchestra playing the 1812 Overture, which I've heard before many times as a kid studying classical music, but never on the pan. And it just, I was just so excited to go to a pan yard, and I started hanging out with West Stars, and that was like my first introduction to steel pan. But let's talk about the panyard, because the panyard is a sacred thing also, because you have your hierarchy and your elders and all of these folks in there. How does a panyard work? And explain to our audience, what is a panyard?
I just want to. So I mean, the panyard is first of all, it's a communal space, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's one of the things that makes this instrument incredibly special is that first of all, it's a band instrument. It's a communal instrument. It's an instrument that you play with other people all the time, right? This is how it was. It was conceived of as a communal instrument. It's not an instrument that you take by yourself and go play quietly by yourself someplace. Everybody has to meet in the same place at the same time to make music. And so you do that at the panyard. The panyard could be, today a panyard could be somebody's backyard. It could be somebody's basement. It could be a room in somebody's school. It could be a church. It could be, an after school program, a YMCA, a Boys and Girls Club, right? The panyard is just where you go. But I'm going to let Foster talk about the dynamic of the panyard in Trinidad, because that's a very unique. So it's in Trinidad and also in the Diaspora. So like here in DC, we have some panyards in DC that like they function the same way a panyard in Trinidad will function, right? Even though it might be in the basement of a church or next to a rim shop, right? So.
And that's really well put, Victor, because growing up, the panyard is like your first phase of your community center, or just another community center, as you said. The dynamics of a panyard is crazy, because you get everything. That's where a lot of us learn music. For me, I learned everything about music. I learned everything about life. I learned, so much there. And then you had every panyard functions different. Every panyard, does their things a bit differently. However, the thing is, it's just that communal place where you make make relationships, learn to play music and pull out a pan, and responsibility. What about my band? And back in those days, the bands were very, how to put it? Whenever the word comes, but it was my band.
Right.
So
pride, plenty pride.
Pride, that's what I'm saying. So community pride. So this was a great representation of your community.
Right. Exactly.
There's a lot of people within the community they're not playing pan, but when you see the band going up the road for Panorama, they're with them. They have the jersey, they have the everything.
Yeah.
But the panyard is also, apart from music, is where you get some food, where you get advice. A nice cook like Invaders Steel Orchestra, which is in Trinidad, Tragic Road, Trinidad, one of the oldest steel bands around. They would call them the I think they had what you call the breadfruit tree, or breadfruit tree boys, or something like that. But I think the breadfruit tree is still there, if I'm not mistaken. But when I was playing it, we used to get some nice breadfruit on a Sunday when we have practices, and you get a nice oil down and all that kind of stuff. So
Right.
culture, it's really that place where culture was just passed around. So that oral tradition that you was talking about, Dion, the idea of, because you hear all the older heads like, yeah, boy, back in the day, this used to happen. And boy, I got this bustle and I got this here and I got this. And they talk about various, things. And you ain't know to beat pan yet. You know about pan. What you know about pan? That's one of the questions you would get from the old boys.
Because you might be a little youth. You might be a little youth, like 3, 4, 5 years old, trying to run behind. You can't even reach. Trying to set up and reach. You can't reach nothing. So you will find, if you really want to be involved, you will find something to make some music with, right? So that's when you pick up something and beat.
Yeah, man.
But that's I mean the way, definitely like the panyard today, and it's of course it's gone through some changes, because back in the day, in the origins, before you could really call it a yard, I mean it was just somebody's backyard, right?
Yeah, well, a yard, exactly.
Yeah, somebody's yard, and it was just young boys, teenagers, right? 14, 15, 16-year-olds. Being boys, right? So now, like, as now 50, 60, 70 years gone by, and you look in the yard now, like Foster says, is representative of the whole community. So it's multi-generational, multi-gender. You have man, woman. You will see the Panyard is one of the only places where you could see a Rasta man standing next to a white man, standing next to a Muslim in a burqa, standing next to, and all of them playing the same song, right? Making the same music.
Yeah.
Right.
Because that dynamic has changed from fellas, Bajan, as we used to call them, as we would call fellas up to no good, ghetto youth kind of thing.
Right. Yeah.
And people girls could not play no pan. Pan wasn't allowed in church. None of that kind of stuff. That wasn't happening. And and a lot of things attributed to that, but also the stigma of the African people and so on, and the kids and so on. But also then it boils back down even to the Code Noir, what they were trying to do to convert people into Catholicism and all that kind of stuff. So that code which was so integral to whatever they were trying to do at that point, to erase culture, erase these people's background from whence they came, and to force feed Catholicism. So hence all the banning and all that kind of thing. So having these things within the yard now, these guys could have been they did something amazing, because look at what we have, look what we're talking about.
Yeah, I was about to say, man, it's really interesting. You talk about the Code Noir is similar to the black codes of the underground, of what was happening in the South and stuff. And I know a couple jazz musicians, had songs called Black Codes and paid homage to that and studied that legacy also. But it's really interesting because as you get displaced throughout the diaspora, wherever you land, you find your way. And as jazz was being created in the States, steelpan was evolving in Trinidad and throughout the Caribbean with a similar resistance from authority. Is really interesting, but it turned into a whole nother thing. And right now, it's accepted worldwide. It's institutionalized. I know here in the Virgin Islands, every public school from elementary on up have a steelpan ensemble, which says a lot, So I want to share with our audience a brief sample of the day in life in a panyard. You guys were gracious enough to share a video of us, a video of a panyard rehearsal with the one and only Boogsy Sharp. Yeah. And we would love to play that for our audience.
So let's give it.
Back up, Stop. Alright, so let's go. So I'm with you. Once they get something inside here, but you gotta get up there. 1, 2, 1. Let's go. Go close. I don't know if I should take off my hand. Please. Go ahead. Watch it out. Everybody play together. B. Bass, everybody, right? Bass on the high B, right? B, A, G sharp. Right? On the upper, everybody. B, A, G sharp, F sharp. F sharp. Second part, no be much. Listen here. B, A, G sharp, next one. F sharp, E. No, E. After the G sharp, go to higher sharp, no, C sharp, next one is C sharp. A. Right? The second note B, A, G sharp, higher sharp, E, C sharp, A. Third, one for is A. What please, John? Third, one for is H1 A. High, right? So second, A and D high. F sharp with H1 D. What is the third? Right? Get third, A and D. 4 5 H1 A. Basic D. So 1 5 right? So we have a friend, we have a different key. To break. Right? F sharp, higher sharp, E, C sharp, A, chord. Power up, right? F sharp. See, right. You can't get at the same time. I always tell that. This little chunk can only get someone like that. Go. I'm gonna get 3, 4, power down. Power down. Slam it go. 1, 2, go down after. 3, F sharp, bass, F sharp, E, C sharp, let that A, please. Go to the DDD. Let's go. 3, 4, 3. Let's go. Go right up, back. 1, 2, 3.
That's what you call an ending. Only about y'all, man. And to have that much control and just to call out the notes like that and everybody just pick it up is amazing.
Man, it's so much.
I can give you. Go ahead, sorry.
No, I was just gonna say like fast. I mean, this is you playing drums. Like that's you in the video. That's you. You were there that night. So you should expound on that. But I just want to point out a couple things to the audience that might not be like obvious. The first thing is that this is a rehearsal with an audience, like with a captive audience, right? So that's something you don't find that in other musical traditions, man. Other musical traditions, people like when you rehearse, it's in secret. Right. You know, you go in a practice room or rent a studio or something, right? And then when you have your show, that's when you get the audience. The steel band is one of the only traditions where the rehearsal gets an audience too, right? And you sit down and you see all kinds of families there checking out the music. And there was something Bugsy said early on in the video. He said, "I stop coasting before it goes out of my head. Stop coasting before it goes out of my head," right? Like you see him kind of step off to the side of the music. Yeah. Right. Step off to the side of the band. He has his head down like this. And everybody, when he said stop coasting, everybody was just kind of like practicing their part or like playing their part. Right. But what they don't realize is that Bugsy is right in the tune.
In his head. That's what I'm saying.
In the tune in his head.
Right. And he's just like giving them notes. Like you play this, you go, but not play it. Because I'm listening to, is a B, is a A, is a G sharp. And I'm like, where are we going with this? He didn't get him the rhythm until the very end. He's like, I'm like, wow, that's what came out of this.
No, he was he is actually, and my opportunity to work with him was phenomenal. We always call, and this is when we were talking about the panyards. Every panyard has its own identity. Phase 2, the band that we was listening to, Phase 2 Pan Groove. We call that the village, and or sometimes we call that the University of Phase 2 Pan Groove, because no matter how much music we would have known, we go into school and come back to Trinidad. This guy he's so gifted. He's so naturally gifted. But such is the tradition of a lot of steel pan or the steel pan art form, where music is distributed orally. Right. African tradition as well. So because of the fact that most of the musicians were not musically trained, but they knew what they were hearing.
Right.
And for him, working with him, I would admire his sense of orchestration.
Those voicings, man, the voicings
his
in the
voices
beginning
is amazing, and he could go from one pan to the next and do the same thing. For me, as the drummer for that type of orchestra, because we're talking, that's for on stage it would be 120,
100 plus, yeah.
And rehearsals about 140, 150. So because so many people, and it's one of the biggest bands in Trinidad and Tobago, but also successful. That session actually, and all that work we did that night, we didn't play it.
Wow.
He changed his mind.
Wait, so the next night.
He came the next night. Okay. Because I know a lot of times what will happen is like, so we'll probably, I don't know if we'll get to talk about Panorama today, but maybe in the version 2.0, that like the arranger will write something, right, and then go to the first the prelims, for example, right, like the first set of judging, and then after that first set of judging, they will come back and rewrite significant parts of the tune based on the feedback.
Right.
Yeah. You see, the competition is so fierce, and I mean, it has changed throughout the years, but we're talking, and I would just talk maybe about a period very briefly of like when we had, Bugsy Sharp out there, as we just watched, Clive Bradley, late Clive Bradley, who's maybe for me just the greatest arranger of pan that never played a pan.
Right.
And you had Jit Samaru and Ken Fillmore and these guys passed on. Robert Greenidge, who's still alive with us. But they were each band had its own personal sound, and they didn't, they were very precise on whatever they were doing. One year in particular, 1990, Phase 2 and Faunclair was running. They played Pan by Storm, legendary Pan by Storm, which lost by half a point by Ken Fillmore. And but Bugsy and they were playing a song, I think it was a breakdown, I believe it. And because of the competition, this is how the story came to me in the Panyard. This is why when you're in the Panyard, you get all the stories. They've done 4 different Panorama songs.
Wow.
In the season of the same song. So Bugsy was like, we lost, we have scrap that whole song again. Scrap that whole song again. But there's also attribute to the quality of that band.
Yeah, for sure.
To do that, to pull that off, because that's not an easy feat to teach 140 people 4 songs in a season.
Right. Yeah.
That's amazing to be able
to and at that point it was 10 minutes. So I mean, we lose 10 minutes, 10 minutes of music. So you actually get more than 10 minutes of music, and depending on the tempo.
For sure.
However, that. I mean, in that session, you saw that session, everybody's in the yard, people getting drinks. You have the corn soup man, you have the guys taking a little smoke in the corner, whatever. Everything about the whole atmosphere of the Panyard. And it's so, I mean, there is nothing like it, as we, there is nothing like it. And that's certain from October for me as a Trinidadian. Carnival time, October, I'm going to the Panyard even when nothing is happening, because it's that time, October, November, we're learning tunes and so on. So over this 2-month period, and maybe even 3 months, we're going, people look at the fact that, it's a 10-minute song or 8-minute song, but it's more than just learning a 10-minute song orally. It's community, it's camaraderie, it's everything. It's the lime, as we call it,
I don't think you could do one without the next, though. I don't think like there's no way the two of them fit together like that time. The line and the camaraderie is a thing that spiritually facilitates that kind of learning.
Right.
There's no way.
It's the backbone behind the Panyard. I think is a beautiful thing. It's a living, breathing organism within itself, because the what happens in your Panyard is so different, like Victor said, from any musical scene. We rehearse as a band, and it's all rehearsal. And but a Panyard, it's a process. It's a whole
It is
so many different elements that, and I think that's why it's so unique in itself. I mean, from an oral African tradition being passed down, that's what I love about it. It's something that's very organic to the diaspora, and we hold that, we hold that sacred, and I love the fact that it has been accepted worldwide after being, pushed back and looked down upon. It's been accepted worldwide, and it's even, considered an art form on a high level. And you guys have won a number of awards. I have to apologize for not going into your personal background, but we have time for that in another show. I promise you all, you're gonna have your time to do that, and the audience can check in on you and really see, who Foster is and who Victor really is. But there's so much to say here, and I know we're cutting it short, man. We have one more song I would love to play. And this is, to our audience, this is volume 1 of the history of the steel pan, being presented by Mr. Victor Provost and Mr. Leon Foster Thomas, and this is their research on it. But there's so much to be said because there's so many people that have contributed to the history of the steel pan. So this is just part of that whole that evolution of the steel pan, and we will have volume 2 of this. But we have a little bit more time, and I would just love to play one more song, if you guys don't mind.
Sure. Is this pan in A minor?
We're going to jump the pan in A minor. Yeah, song number 5. We're going to jump the pan in A minor.
So before you play it, let's say something, a couple of things about it. Foster, I don't know if you are familiar with this version, like this video, but this is a group from Finland. Playing an arrangement of pan in A minor that is, and I feel horrible that I can't recall the name of the arranger, which is unfortunate. That's a sin, because we just talked about how important the arranger is. The arranger is, but this is, you can hear it paying tribute to one of the most iconic steel band arrangements, which was Jit Samaru's arrangement of pan in A minor, right? And so you'll hear a lot of quotes, a lot of stuff taken to pay tribute to Jit. But again, this is, as an example of how far the pan has traveled. This is a band in Finland, playing this music on this instrument from Trinidad. So this is pan in A minor. Ari Vitanen.
Talk about arrangement. Wow.
Yeah. He did some stuff there, borrowed a few parts there with the introduction, and that's why when I heard, I was like, oh yeah, Renegade's version.
Yeah,
but that's the reach.
Okay,
but that's the reach. I think that was 1987. Now that tune, Panin in mind, if I'm not 80, Panin 87. Quite a few bands played that in the competition actually, and that was one of Jet Samaru's. For those who don't know, Jet Samaru was one of the legendary arrangers for the band, for steel band and stuff like that, and one of actually even the few East Indian arrangers of pan.
A whole family.
So Samaru Jets, you could find that they have a lot of music with regards to playing based on their East Indian heritage, which is great. And it speaks of the connectivity within the country in that sense. Just a funny, maybe not a funny story, but a quick thing with regards to Jit and his style of arranging, because I know we're not going there just yet, but tunes like that, he would overcompensate to keep people off the streets. He has a story where it's like, I would give the players a lot of music and give them stuff to keep them busy, to keep them off the streets. But it was a winning formula, and for like Panorama, for a lot of people when they listen to this kind of music, Panorama is somewhat of like the classical music has so much connection to pan, especially back in those days, and this is somewhat of like a broken sonata form in that sense. But you can see how that connected in that sense there.
Yeah,
man, Jit.
When we
rest in peace, Jit.
Maybe in the second, we should. I mean, I hope we spend a lot of time talking about Panorama in the second edition, because that's another very unique concept, man. With you have guys like Jit and Bugsy and all of these arrangers, and the reason I said that the arrangers are like the they're like superstars, right? And Panorama is, I mean, not only is it one of the biggest musical the biggest musical events in the world, right? Just in terms of like of number of players and audience. But in Trinidad, I think maybe, well, Foster, you have to tell me, what order does it go in? Does it go football, Panorama, cricket? Or does it go Panorama, cricket, football? Or
No, man, I don't think... Carnival time for most pan people, it's pan first and everything else.
Pan first one time.
Yeah, you could play cricket and football.
Yeah,
anytime in the pan. Practice time.
Panorama first. Yeah, but these guys will take a pop tune. Essentially, it's like a pop tune. It's 3 minutes of musical material. Right, and spin out this long, 8.5, 10-minute arrangement of theme and variations, and
exactly.
It's amazing. The dynamics is like, the dynamics in pan, man. When it sneaks up on you, a lot of times you hear this huge overture, and then all of a sudden it goes down to a whisper. It's like, what just happened? Yeah. It's just amazing. The emotional component that comes out of the pan yet also.
But it's so important, and
it is all the musicality for musicians that are not formally trained. I think is a hell of a presentation, man. It's I shouldn't say not formally trained, but there's the musicians that
exactly
study, and that's their job and their thing. But the discipline that goes into the pan, a lot of people don't see it, man. It's of a high quality level. It's amazing.
A lot of these guys listen to a lot of radio. They had their favorite composers and so on that they would listen to. Bugsy would put the radio on at night and go to sleep. Yeah. And so whoever he was listening to, swinging or whatever the case is,
that's what came out.
Yeah, that's what came out.
Yeah.
And as Victor alluded to, like they would take one of those pop songs. 1963 was the first Panorama. It wasn't really. They used to call it bomb competition before Panorama. And bomb competition is literally taking those pop songs and making an arrangement out of it. Maybe the next thing I'd submit a flyer actually from the first Panorama. Somebody was kept me warm. So I tried to submit that so people could see it from 1963.
Yeah, man.
Well, definitely we shared a lot, but we have a lot more to discuss. So I'm making my notes. I'm like volume 2, looking like at a volume 3 because I'm like, man, I don't even know. We're already over. But gentlemen, man, it's really been a pleasure sitting and talking with you all and learning myself. I thought I knew a lot, but this is very informative, and I know it's informative for audience as well. So we look forward to having you back for the volume 2 of the history of steel pan as we expand upon this amazing instrument of the 21st century. I would like to take the time to thank you, Foster, for your time. And I know you're very busy in England studying, and Victor for your time with all the things that you're doing. So any last words to our audience before we sign off?
Not me. I said enough. Foster, Foster, you got some things coming up that you probably, right?
You know what, man? I mean, like, well, really, with regards to the instrument, before I even maybe mention anything, we just tried. I think this is so great. Thanks for having this, Dion, because it's just really important. Whereas the respect level for the instrument amps up. You know, we got a lot of where people don't really look at it as something serious. I have an article where I talked about that, whereas people don't take the pan serious, so they think it doesn't belong. But the more we educate people about the instrument and its beginnings and, what's happening with it, and, how important it is to us, not only as Trinidadians, but as from the Caribbean. It's extremely important, and programs like these is extremely helpful. So, respect for the instrument, just like everything else, it goes a long way. But we head into China after the next month, so we had the Blue Note.
Nice.
Blue Note in Shanghai and Beijing, man. But yeah, man, thank you for having us.
Great. Well, congratulations on your success, and have a great tour in China, man. We look forward to communing with you either before you go or when you get back to, wrap up the next segment of the history of the steel pan, being presented by the one and only Mr. Victor Provost and Leon Foster Thomas. So thank you, gentlemen, and we look forward to seeing you soon.
Thank you.
Peace.